Ever wondered what it's like to be a pet turtle? Spoiler alert, it's not the glamorous life you imagined. Somewhere in the back of a humid, fluorescent-lit farming facility, an egg cracks open. You emerge, blinking your tiny eyes, only to find yourself surrounded by dozens of other hatchlings, all with the same look of bewilderment. The first thing you feel? The cold, unwelcoming embrace of mass production. No cozy nest, no mother's warmth. Just a plastic tub stacked with your siblings, all scrambling over each other like it's a Black Friday sale. Above you looms the figures of a couple of humans, eyeing you as if you're the latest gadget straight off the assembly line. And guess what? You are. These humans, your so-called caretakers, are not here to coddle you. Oh no, they're here to make sure you grow just enough to be sellable, but not so much that you start thinking you're entitled to, space or dignity. Your early days are spent in a glorified kiddie pool with water that's definitely seen better days. The smell? Let's just say it's the aromatic blend of algae, turtle poop, and broken dreams. Food is tossed your way with all the care of someone flinging breadcrumbs to pigeons. It's a delightful mix of dry, compressed pellets, because nothing says balanced diet like something that looks and tastes like soggy cardboard. Occasionally, if you're lucky, there might be some fish meal or vegetable scraps thrown in, but don't get your hopes up. And the competition? Brutal. Every meal is a battle royale, with your siblings shoving, snapping, and climbing over you as if they're auditioning for a wrestling show. Survival of the fittest, they call it. You call it Tuesday, and let's not forget the humans. They waltz around in their rubber gloves, picking you up like you're some kind of science experiment. They poke, prod, and inspect every inch of you, looking for imperfections like they're on a reality show called Terrapin's Next Top Model. Too small? Back in the tub you go. A tiny crack in your shell? Well, you don't want to know what happens next. The quality control here? Absolutely ruthless. When you're deemed fit for sale, you're plucked from your watery purgatory and unceremoniously dropped into a plastic container. Air holes are poked in the lid because, humane treatment. The container is just big enough for you to turn around, assuming you're okay with smacking into the sides every 2 seconds. Then it's on to the next leg of your journey, a long, bumpy ride to a pet store. Packed like sardines in the container, you and your fellow inmates endure hours of jostling, vibrations, and the occasional pothole-induced roller coaster. The humans in charge of your shipment? Let's just say they're not exactly the Ritz-Carlton concierge service. No one's checking if you're comfortable or hydrated. You're cargo now, and cargo doesn't complain. By the time you arrive at the pet store, you're a little worse for wear. But hey, at least you've upgraded to a glass tank. Progress, right? The water is slightly cleaner, but only because it's still new. Give it a few days. Your new home is a luxury suite, if your idea of luxury is being crammed into a tiny tank with a dozen other confused turtles. No privacy, no room to stretch, and absolutely no personal space. The setup is minimalist, to put it kindly. A single basking log teeters precariously, already monopolized by the biggest, meanest bloke in the tank. The heat lamp overhead flickers inconsistently, and the UVB bulb, your only hope for proper shell health, looks like it's been there since the dawn of time. And then there's the parade of humans. The glass walls around you distort their shapes on the other side. One taps on the glass with a loud thunk, thunk, thunk. You flinch, your soft shell trembling. A couple of humans stroll by, cooing, "Oh, look how cute it is." Cute? If only they knew the indignities you've endured to end up here. Crammed in a tank, trampled by your tank mates, and now perched on a wobbly old log like some kind of garden ornament. But no, all they see is a tiny, smiling turtle, blissfully unaware of its grim reality. Oh, the irony. So here you are, a product on display, waiting for someone to take you home. Your future? Oh, it's a gamble. If you're lucky, you might actually get to live your full lifespan of 20 to 40 years. Or you could just become an impulse buy that gets shoved into a tiny tank for the next few months. Either way, it's a win or not. And then it happens. After days or weeks of being ogled like a shiny toy, one of the humans points at you. The others nod in agreement. A net swoops down, scooping you up unceremoniously. Your siblings scatter, but there's no escaping the inevitable. Congratulations. You've just been chosen. You're scooped up, paid for, and stuffed into yet another plastic container. This time, though, there's a false sense of optimism. You're going home. What a treat, right? Your new home is, let's call it quaint. small enough to double as a shoebox, with just a few sad gallons of water when you should have an entire pond to explore. It's decorated with the finest in budget pet aesthetics, a single plastic palm tree, already leaning at an unnatural angle, and a handful of pebbles that serves no real purpose except to trap uneaten food and stink up the place. The water? Stagnant and slightly murky, with a faint whiff of chlorine. It's room temperature at best, because who needs a heater when you're just a turtle? And of course, your human proudly places you by the window, guaranteeing that you'll either freeze solid in winter or slow cook in summer. This will be your entire world, and it's already failing you. And the food situation? Let's just say it's not exactly gourmet. Your meals now consist of generic pellets that smell vaguely of fish food, tossed into your tank with all the grace of someone throwing darts blindfolded. Occasionally, your human might spice things up with a lettuce leaf or a piece of carrot, but let's not kid ourselves. This isn't exactly a Michelin star experience. And if they forget to feed you for a day or two, well, that's just part of the adventure. Now let's talk about your natural instincts. You're a turtle, a creature designed to bask in the sun, swim in wide open waters, and occasionally snack on some unsuspecting bug. But here you are, stuck in a glorified fishbowl, trying to climb fake stones that are about as stable as a politician's promises. Every instinct you have is screaming, swim farther, bask longer, hunt something. But nope, your life now consists of laps around a tank and the occasional thrill of chasing a pellet as it sinks. Living the dream. And then, of course, there are the humans. They mean well, but their idea of interaction is questionable at best. They scoop you up with cold, clammy hands and poke at your shell as if you're a living stress ball. And then comes the real test. They flip you onto your back just to see if you can turn yourself over, watching with amusement as you flail helplessly like a wind-up toy going through a very undignified quality control check. And when they're feeling particularly fun, they plop you onto the cold, hard floor for what they call playtime. Yeah, nothing screams fun like you frantically scuttling around, trying to find a hiding spot while they laugh at how adorable your panic looks. Adorable? Try humiliating. But life at first wasn't the worst. Your humans were absolutely fascinated by you, giving you a name that sounded something like Winklebum, because, of course, that's what every turtle deserves. They hovered over your tank like you were a celebrity, tapping the glass with giddy excitement. Look, it blinked, they'd squeal, convinced they'd unlocked some deep bond with you. They even Googled things like best turtle care, though let's be real, they never made it past the first search result. The tank was cleaned regularly, your water was fresh, food showed up like clockwork. Well, most of the time, and for a brief moment, you almost convinced yourself this wasn't a complete disaster of a fate. Almost. But then, you grew. Gone were the days of being a cute, palm-sized novelty. You were no longer a tiny, manageable desk ornament, but an awkward, oversized reptile bumping into the sides of your too-small tank like a drunk trying to find the exit. Your once adoring humans slowly started to realize that, shockingly, you weren't the low-maintenance pet they thought you'd be. Cleaning the tank? Tedious. Buying bigger tanks? Expensive. And just like that, you were no longer a cherished pet. You were a chore. Your once pristine tank, the pride of their early enthusiasm, was soon downgraded from exciting new pet habitat to that smelly thing in the corner. The water, once crystal clear, started getting murkier by the day. Algae crept in like an uninvited guest, covering everything in a slimy green film. Your once crisp view of the outside world? Obscured. That decorative plastic palm tree they thought was so cute? Now coated in mold. The smell? A delightful blend of stagnant water and regret. But your humans? They barely notice. They've moved on to a new hobby, a new distraction, while you spend your days contemplating the meaning of existence, staring at your own distorted reflection in the algae-coated glass. Meanwhile, your shell, your one defense against the world, begins to betray you. Without proper UVB lighting, your body can't produce the vitamin D3 needed to absorb calcium. Unfortunately, this crucial fact was buried on page 2 of the Google search, which, let's be honest, your human never bothered to read. Slowly, your shell softens, warping like an overcooked pancake. Small cracks appear, tiny, sinister doorways inviting bacteria and fungus to move in rent-free. The itching starts, then the infections, and before you know it, you're rotting, literally. By the time the humans notice, you're a walking health hazard. They poke at your shell, murmuring things like, does this look normal to you? Spoiler, it does not. But instead of addressing the real issue, they opt for the classic human solution. Quick, lazy fixes. Maybe they finally clean your tank. Maybe they toss in extra food, convinced that stuffing you like a Thanksgiving turkey will somehow cure your ailments. For a brief, shining moment, things improve. The water is clear. Your shell gets a break from its fungal assault. And for the first time in ages, you almost feel okay. But deep down, you know the cycle will repeat. It always does. And then the day comes. You've grown too big for their liking, too much effort. Or maybe they genuinely believe they're doing you a favor. Either way, they scoop you up, drive to the nearest park, and ceremoniously dump you into a pond. "Be free, little guy," they exclaim, as if they're a benevolent deity blessing you with the gift of independence. And for a brief, glorious moment, it actually feels like freedom. The water is vast, cool, and alive in a way your cramped little tank never was. Your instincts, long dormant, finally kick in, urging you to explore. For the first time, the sun warms your shell the way it was always meant to. For the first time, you feel truly alive. But freedom, as you quickly learn, isn't free. You're not a wild terrapin, you're a glorified desk pet. Your survival skills? Non-existent. You've spent your whole life eating pre-softened pellets in a predator-free glass prison. Now, in the real world, you have no idea how to hunt, hide, or avoid becoming someone's lunch. Soon, reality kicks in, and it kicks hard. The other creatures in the pond? Not friendly. The little fishes dart away like you're the pond's resident weirdo, and the frogs look at you like you've just crashed their private pool party. No warm welcomes here, just judgmental amphibians and terrified minnows. And then, there are the predators. Herons lurking above, raccoons prowling the banks, even snapping turtles that look at you like you're an easy lunch special. You've gone from being the top of the pet store food chain to the bottom of nature's hierarchy. Finding food is a whole new nightmare. The pond is basically a refugee camp for abandoned turtles, all of you scrambling for scraps. You even recognize one of your long-lost cousins from the pet shop, only now he's bigger, meaner, and definitely not sharing. You thought chasing pellets was tough? Try catching a fish that moves like it's got a turbo boost. You lunge, you miss, again and again. Starvation is starting to look like a real possibility. Then there's the weather. In your cozy tank, the temperature was relatively consistent, even if it did swing from freezer to furnace depending on the season. Out here, you're at the mercy of the elements. Rain turns the pond into a murky whirlpool, and on sunny days, finding a decent basking spot is like competing for the last parking space at a shopping mall. And then there's winter. If you thought being abandoned was bad, try hibernation roulette. You're forced to dig into the freezing mud and pray you don't become a reptilian popsicle. It's a yearly gamble, and let's just say, not everyone wakes up in the spring. Plus, that serene little pond, it's teeming with parasites. Despite it all, you adapt. Clumsily, awkwardly, but somehow you make it work. You learn which basking spots won't get you chased off, which bugs are edible, and which ones are just crunchy disappointment. Slowly, you start to feel a little proud of yourself. Look at me, you think. A true survivor. Years pass. You're no longer the tiny, fragile reject you once were. Your shell is scarred, a testament to the battles you've fought and the hardships you've endured. You're tougher now, wiser. You find a quiet spot by the edge of the pond, basking in the weak sunlight. The world around you is chaotic, noisy, and unforgiving, but for this one moment, it's peaceful. And then, it happened. A shadow flickers across the water. Before your sluggish reptilian brain can process the warning signs, a heron descends like a feathery assassin. A blur of wings, a flash of a sharp beak, and suddenly, your body goes limp. And that's when it hits you. You screwed up. You let your guard down for one moment, and nature cashed in immediately. So this is how it ends. You had a good run, and now you're the main course. But wait, suddenly, you wake up. This time, you're a bullfrog in a farm. Could this be your shot at a better life? Watch this video to find out.